Good evening, everyone. Chancellor, Deputy Vice-Chancellor, members of the Senate, members of the Executive, graduands, family and friends. It's a great honour for me to speak to you on this day of celebrations. To the graduands, congratulations. You've made it. After all those years of hard work, you may be wondering what could possibly lie ahead. Well, if I may, let me tell you a few stories of my journey. On November 17, 1997, I took a trip. My story begins here, in this great hall. I finished my last exam at law school, picked up my backpack, and then headed to the airport with some friends. We flew directly to Africa and travelled around Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, you name it. With t-shirts, good cheer, sleeping bags and a tent, and an Australian sense of adventure, we set off. Our plan was vague at best. We actually didn't have one. But we had a great time, and for someone whose main idea of going overseas was going to Rottnest Island, it was an eye-opener. We learned so much about every country we went to. We didn't have any money, but we didn't need any. We saw a lot. On our travels, we saw poverty. We saw people living in shanty towns. We even saw violence. But we also saw incredible beauty. We saw happiness. We saw people living and thriving. We saw people helping each other. With no plan and no money, we drifted around sub-Saharan Africa for some time, relying on our ability to make friends along the way. It worked out perfectly. I think sometimes you don't need a plan, you just need to experience. Our travels in Africa meant that we also learned something about ourselves. We were curious people. We enjoyed learning. It was also interesting. The different cultures, experience, sense of adventure, it was infectious. And over the years, I've noticed that people who travel are more worldly, more accepting, more patient, and more open in their thinking. If you can, please travel. You'll be the richer for it. However, by the time I'd finished my travelling in Africa, Europe, and America for returning home, I was very much the poorer for it in the monetary sense. Time to start work. Much to the horror of my parents, I arrived back in Perth the day before starting at Clayton Utts. Jet-lagged and a bit dishevelled, I rolled up for work at St George's Terrace for induction training. However, rather than being tired, I couldn't contain my excitement at the new challenge ahead of me. Working as a young lawyer was exciting. Hard work, steep learning curve, sometimes tedious, but mostly fun. I felt our mission was to help people, and we were part of a dynamic and successful team. I learnt early on that if you got the chance to work on a good file, it was best not to give it up. So when I got the chance to work on a file, I would say, I've got this, and try and keep working on the file. One day, a file landed on my desk that looked fairly straightforward. I've got this, I thought. However, after delving deeper into the file, I appreciated its complexity, and it dawned on me that what appeared to be a simple file on the surface was in fact horribly complex and problematic. After some minutes, I realised I needed help and approached the senior solicitors. The outpouring of help I received was amazing. Colleagues who loved what they were doing, were experts in their field, and despite being extremely busy, were happy to help. And with their help and their guidance, the case was a success. So I learned early on not to be afraid to ask for help, and I sincerely doubt that anyone here in this great hall would refuse to help you if you asked. We turned a challenging situation into success, and more success flowed from that success. It's then I started to realise that sometimes a challenge is really an opportunity in disguise. Challenging situation is an opportunity because a lot of folks don't bother with it, or they give up right away. They pass the file on. So next time you face a challenge, it might actually be an opportunity. Take a good hard look and see how you can make the most of it. My next story is about jumping out of your comfort zone, taking the leap. When I was at school, I aced maths, physics, and chemistry, and somehow bumbled my way through English and the humanities. As a lawyer, I enjoyed the problem solving, but I was always curious about other careers that involved maths. The truth was, although I was a trained lawyer, I have a passion for the sciences. Whilst I was working as a solicitor, I even did a night class of HTML programming. And this was pretty out there at the time because in my day, we didn't even have email. I was curious about investment banking, not that it really existed in Western Australia back in those days. I researched the hell out of it and talked to as many people in the field that I could to learn. And one day, a friend set me up with a senior banker travelling to Perth from the East Coast. We had breakfast, and he offered me a job in banking, just like that. I discussed this with my girlfriend at the time, Jill, now my beautiful wife and mother of my 3 wonderful children. She thought for a while and said, let's do it. Now, opportunities don't come up every day. I find they tend to just pop up randomly and you need to react to them. When this happens, my suggestion is this: stop what you're doing and look very carefully at them, because sometimes you need to dig a bit deeper to discover how good they are. Weigh the risk, weigh the reward, and then make a decision. Make the call and don't look back. Seize the opportunity. So we set sail for Sydney from Perth for a new job. However, there was a few miscalculations lost on the way. First one is I had to take a pay cut because I was starting again at the bottom. The second one was that I was starting again at the bottom, which turned out to be quite irritating. Thirdly, the rent in Sydney was very high. Starting out at the bottom was not fun. I was a senior person sitting with all the graduates, and they were much better than me at the computer modelling. I was forced to learn the very basics of modelling, forced to learn how to value a business from first principles, and I was way out of my comfort zone. It also felt like the last 3 and a bit years of law were completely wasted. It was boot camp and it was tough, but it's amazing how quickly we can adapt. Sure enough, after a while, got the valuations and modelling correct, and I'd experienced it firsthand. That ability to model the value of a company is something I carry with me every day. And without that learning, I would never have been able to make the judgments around risk and value that I need to make as a senior banker. However, as I mentioned, things in Sydney were expensive. To make ends meet, I started doing wills and conveyancing at night time. I registered my own law firm, the prestigious Wood & Co, and started giving out very basic advice to make ends meet. This was in addition to working investment banking hours. Having 2 jobs was tiring, but I got to see what a new business owner faces when they start their own business. This hands-on experience helped me relate to clients looking at startups, later to become a boom industry. 2001, the dot-com bubble burst, and then we had the market crash of 2002. Things are very tricky now as people were being let go across the street. It was actually a scary time. But then, something strange happened. Clients needed a lot of restructuring advice, and instead of my legal skills being wasted, they were now needed. I was busier than ever and formed some great relationships with clients as we fought side by side to help get their company out of the holes that they were in. I even got promoted. Client work increased and we were doing okay. I'm always grateful for the opportunity given to me by my first investment banking boss. He took a chance on me, and I'll never forget that. However, I'm also thankful that I could find the courage to try out a new career, and thankful for the support of my family and friends to take their chance, to make the leap. A couple of words on family. Your family has invested a lot to get you here tonight, my family included, again, so be thankful. And to all the friends, family and colleagues here tonight, thank you for coming. It's great to see so many supporters here. My final story is about leadership. In 2010, I changed firms to work at Bank of America Merrill Lynch. And in 2013, I was appointed Head of Investment Banking for Australia. I had plenty of training. I was previously Deputy Head of Investment Banking. I had a mentor. But nothing really prepares you for stepping into the spotlight and taking charge. There's no hiding, because everyone sees everything you do. I was 37. It was a great honour, but we had an enormously complex business and a very competitive market to operate in. We also had a smaller team than some of our competitors. How would we win? One thing I did was to reach out to some of the best ex-bankers I knew in the market to seek advice. There are many points of advice, but two stuck out. Number one, focus on culture. The team with the best culture has so many advantages over a team with poor culture. People feel better. Good culture means happy employees, people looking out for each other, being safer, working harder, winning together, and best of all, celebrating those successes. Number two, hire a diverse team. If you have too many like-minded people, you'll miss out on the opportunity for new ideas, and you will most likely fail. We each have a role to play, and so diversity is strength. Diversity comes in many forms. Diversity of origin is as important as my travels through Africa, India, and Asia have taught me. Thinking differently about issues and challenging each other's thinking leads to a better outcome. Sadly, in our society today, racism is real. So, please, fight this. Don't judge people when you see them. Judge them by what they say, what their values are, and how they act. You will be the winner, with better relationships, better judgment of people, and you will be a global citizen. Diversity of discipline is also important. One point for the arts and design graduates here tonight: as the robots and artificial intelligence continue to do many of the tasks we perform in our daily lives, the one area they cannot excel in is creativity. In fact, in many of the tech companies I know, some of the highest valued employees are the creative design teams, who can take an ordinary product and make it beautiful. As a leader, you need to empower this team. I would also add that people value being appreciated. It's the little things you do as a leader that add up. It's a personal touch, because being personal means something to people. If you respect your team, they will respect you. And if you care about your team, they will care about you. One of the things I've always loved about university educations is the high value that's placed on independent thought. As a leader, you need to have your own independent view. You must have one and express it. So make time to research and think about the important issues. Invest in them and express your views as a leader widely. Back at this time, I was also given a mentor. He's a great man and a great leader. And one day, when I was discussing a business issue with him, I made an excuse as to why it didn't work out. His response was vociferous. Don't ever make an excuse. You're the leader. You need to own it. This is something I think about every day, owning it, because that's what leadership is, owning it. And from then on in, every mistake was mine, and every success rightly belonged to the team. Final story, one day we're in the middle of a trade and the trade started to go wrong. I remember I had to rush back from a family holiday in Fiji and then head over to New York to work very hard early in the morning every night. One night I was working in the office in New York. It was very dark, it was very late, and my boss came in. It was close to midnight. He was wearing t-shirts, shorts, joggers. He sat down in front of me, bought me a can of Coke. Things were looking bad as I briefed him on where we were. He looked at me and he said, that does not sound good. But don't worry, we've got more fight in us, and we've got more stamina in us than them. And with that, he fell asleep right in front of me on the desk. I kept working as he slept, snoring. But with him just being there, I felt better. He gave me strength. He lifted my spirits. We didn't give up. We hung in there. And eventually, deal was okay. Because sometimes being a leader means just being there for someone. Simply by being present, you can give someone hope. The next few years will be very exciting for you and very fast moving. So have a go, have fun, embrace experience, and please don't pass a file on. Thank you and congratulations.